Author's POV. Grandpa, I want to say something. When Mr. Vermont heard the voice of his granddaughter, he quickly looked at Mr. Lionheart to tell him to stay for a while. Mr. Lionheart sat on the chair beside the old Vermont and they listened to the things that Hirre would say. "What's that, honey?" Mr. Vermont asked, and he leaned his ears to his granddaughter. "Grandpa, I saw my mom in my dream," Hirre said, and Mr. Vermont could not believe that Hirre have conversations with his daughter. His eyes suddenly become watery as he remembered about his only daughter. He was almost cried and thought how lucky was Hirre to have a conversation with Ganymede, Hirre's mother. Really? Did you see her?" Mr. Vermont asked, trembling in his voice. "Yeah. And she looked like me. She have a grayish eyes like mine." Hirre described her mom. And her grandpa's tears drip on his eyes. "Oh. Yes, she is," Mr. Vermont said as he swept the tears on his cheeks. He missed his daughter and he was thankful because even Hirre did not see her since birth. He knew Ganymede was still protecting Hirre. "Speaking of which, why you and my mom sure that I will be fine even I was under the black magic?" she asked as she remembered the real intent of her call. After hearing the question of Hirre, Mr. Vermont stopped for a while. He took a deep breath and looked at the witch doctor. His eyes were filled with sadness and mixed emotions of being an old man. "Do you want to know it?" Mr. Vermont said as he readied himself to tell Hirre about her real identity. Flashback. "No, Ganymede. You will never leave this house," Mr. Vermont angrily scolded a young lady in her late 30s. The woman was have a gray-white wavy hair. Her eyes were gray too. "Father. I can decide myself. I want to go out of here to find him," Ganymede shouted, proving to his father that he was not the superior. "Don't be stubborn, Ganymede," Mr. Vermont shouted, and he pulled his daughter away from the exit door and locked it eventually. Ganymede tried to escape from her father's hands but Mr. Vermont was stronger than her. "No," Ganymede growled as she found herself again in the four-corner room of their house. "Stay there until you learn how to obey me," Mr. Vermont replied angrily, and he left Ganymede helpless. Only her shouted and cries were heard in the room. "Why? Why are you doing this to me? Why Jay can't feel love for me?" Ganymede growled back, and it was heard by Mr. Vermont. He walked back and said, "Because you are a witch. And the love that you felt toward a werewolf like him is forbidden. You should know that, Ganymede. Don't be impulsive," Mr. Vermont said, and Ganymede was cried as she heard those facts from her father. "But my mom is the high priestess. She is the head of the witch pack. And you still love her, right? So why she can have a love even she is half witch?" Ganymede tried to make her point. "Daughter, your witch blood had long suppressed the werewolf blood. And I don't want to put you in danger, Ganymede," Mr. Vermont said as he tell how he beloved his daughter. And he just doing this to protect his loved one. Tilda. Hirre was stunned as she heard the story from her grandfather. Then. "I can't control her. Even I do my best to protect her, she disobeyed me and followed her heart. She escaped, and after that, we could not find her. Until I heard that she was died in the battle," Mr. Vermont said, and he felt pain in his heart that made him to cry. Hirre listened on the other line. "But before she died, she put the power to you, hoping that it will protect you from bad doers." Sniff. Grandpa and Hirre could not believe on what she heard. "Don't cry, Grandpa. It's past. I'll be here for you." Hirre comforted Mr. Vermont as she heard the pain in the voice of her grandpa. Hirre felt something different as she heard how her mother loved her the most. Even she was died, she didn't forget her as her daughter. Suddenly, the witch doctor stood and immediately kneeled on the floor. Hearing Hirre words, and he kneeled on the floor and said, "Oh, Highness Chief, here's POV. I was laying on my bed and I could not sleep very well. I was thinking about the things that I knew from my grandfather. At first, I was surprised and there was a little bit of fear as I thought about my background. I rolled on my bed, forcing myself to think well. But a second later and I rolled again and faced the ceiling. I looked like insane doing the same thing. What should I do? I asked my wolf as I could not think myself. Why don't you tell him?" Harsha replied, and I bit my lower lips, thinking about the things that might come if I would tell to Severus what kind of woman I am. "Nah. I don't want to know him who I am. I need to think well," I said as I took a deep breath. I was afraid that Severus hates me after knowing my identity. "Here. You are his Luna and I'm sure he will accept you," Harsha said, but I'm not satisfied. Because at this time, I knew how the people around the werewolf's world hates witches. "Harsha. They hate me. And I was afraid that even Severus may hate me the same." I sadly pouted my lips, thinking about what would I do. Because even the world went upside down, I could not deny my blood. My grandmother was a great chief of the witches. And the position for that would be inherent by my mother. Unfortunately, my mother Ganymede did not accept her fate. After a long year that the position was empty, the contest has happened and until now, it has been contested. And because of that, the chaos in the witches' world was begun. And how funny to think, because the things that I was afraid to be inherent were the things that they expected me to lead by myself. "So what we will do?" Harsha spoke within me, and I felt annoyed as she threw me again the questions of myself. Sigh. "I don't feel like you helping me, Harsha." I growled at her and I suddenly felt worried. I slapped my forehead. And because I was too busy talking with Harsha, I never thought that Severus entered my room. And it was too late because he was now in my front. His eyes met mine and I was shocked as he get closer to me. "Can I know what you have been talking about with Grandpa?" Severus asked, and it made my heart palpitate. I averted my gaze away from him to turn his attention to something. "And nothing. He just tell me that he was concerned for me," I said, denying the truth from him. For what?" he asked, but I just shook my head. I did not tell him, hoping that he would not be stubborn. But he gets much closer to me. I was a little afraid that he would ask me once again. But instead of words, he gives me his seducing attitude. I felt the tip of his nose in my earlobe and he slowly kissed my neck. His fingers crawl inside my nighties. I felt his hand wanting to devour my hips up to my private area. And his left hand used to take my clothes away. But before he undressed me, I held his wrist and quickly responded to "What he doing?" "Stop that," I said to him, but he was still doing the same thing. He kissed torridly and I could not restrain his movement. I felt he bringing me to heaven again. But I needed to stop him. I need to think about everything before this. I gather my strength to push him away from me. His eyes get widened as he looked at me. I knew he was puzzled why I suddenly stopped him. Stop this. I don't want it for now," I whispered, but he gets closer. I shut my mouth tightly to avoid his kiss. "But I want to have a baby soon. And I already preparing for our wedding," Severus replied to me, and I was surprised when I heard him. I never thought that he would be doing that thing for me. Because, nowadays, werewolves held large weddings, even the Alpha. And everyone in our world treats the mating ceremony as a wedding. And I never expected that Severus made a move for this special event. I saw in Severus's eyes his eagerness to mine me tonight. But I didn't want it for now. "Sev. Pardon. But I think it's not the right time for those things," I added, and he knitted his eyebrows. I knew he did not understand why I suddenly turned into this. But I needed it. "Why? Tell me," he asked me, and I looked at him, giving him my unsuspicious look. "Because I'm not done yet in studying. I need to focus on what I'm doing because I want to accept the pack successfully before the things you wish for. But here, if you trust me, nothing will happen to you. Nothing gonna change the plan you want. You can be a Luna even if you are doing what makes you happy," Severus replied to me. Yes, his words were sweet, but I'm not ready. "Sorry. But I think I have a better plan," I replied, and he suddenly narrows his eyes. I saw from it the anger that created many questions in his mind. "You didn't trust me here. You still doubting my love for you. I know you think that I'm just sipping the things you have as an heir. That I'm a gold digger," he shouted, bursting all of his pain into me. "You did not understand it, Sev. So stop saying that," I growled back to him. I never thought that he would become unreasonable. "And what do you think I'm thinking? I wanted to marry you because you are the heir?" he growled back, and it made me feel angry. "Shut up your mouth if you don't understand my point," I shouted indignantly, and I pointed to the door before I added. "Get out of here," I shouted, and he immediately walked out of my room. I could not breathe as he went out. I felt my blood boiling too hard and it flowing in my veins to give me an irritable feeling. Claire's POV. I was sitting in the corner of this shitty jail. I could not be moved even though the cell was large enough for me. Because Sion was here watching every movement I made. I never thought that he would choose to stay in the cell with me. But even though I told him many times that I didn't need anyone, even him, he was still there. "Claire, I won't leave you here," he said to me, giving me his care. But I ignored him. "Claire, please talk to me," he added, wanting to get closer to me. But I glared at him and yelled. "Are you a fool? I told you to stop chasing me." I should indignantly, but Sion did not retort. He was still lowering his pride for me. He stretched his arms and tried to hug me, but I quickly moved away from him. But he moved much closer. I wanted to curse him, but he suddenly stopped chasing me. Someone was calling him. "Claire. I need to go. I received a report," he said, and he ran away without saying goodbye. When Sion was gone, I felt emptiness again, and I felt everything around me was useless. Here's POV. I was laying on my bed in the fetal position. The thick sheet covered my body because of the shivering coldness that surrounded me. It's already morning and I opened my eyes. I looked around, but like what I thought, Severus did not come back after rejecting his offer. I felt a little angered because I never thought that he would go away without saying a word. I sat on my bed and took the sheet out from me. I fixed my hair and jumped out of my bed. At this moment, I felt annoyed with him. I wanted to argue with him, so I went downstairs to find him. But when I go outside my room, a strange feeling suddenly entered my body. I knitted my eyebrows as I knew what that was. "Harsha. Do you smell Severus?" I asked my wolf as I could not smell Severus. I felt a little bit worried when Harsha replied, "I can't. Maybe he is out of this pack," Harsha said, and I felt it was not just a simple one because Severus did not go away from the pack without any reason. "I need to find the reason," I muttered, and Harsha spoke within me. "Where are you going?" "I will go to the king. I need to know this," I replied, and I ran away, taking the path toward the king's office. After a few moments, I reached the office. My heart beats fast as I entered the massive room. "Pardon, King Ansel, but I want to ask why Severus is not here?" I asked him, trembling in my voice. "I'm so sorry for not telling this, but last night, another group of Rouges attacked the small packs," he replied, and I was shocked as I heard it. "So? What's happened?" I added, and he looked at me. "Don't worry. Alpha Gregor of the Moonchaser Pack drives them away. Actually, I just suspected some for this, but when I know that he was in jail with Claire. So it may cause by some groups of Rouges that do not belong to Sion's hands," King said, and I felt worried. "Thank you, King Ansel," I said, and he nodded his head. I quickly went to my room to fix myself. I did not waste my time and went to the parking lot. "We need to hurry," I muttered, and Harsha was wondering where we would go. Where are we going here?" she asked me while I riding in my sports car. "We will go to the Moonchaser Pack," I replied, and I felt Harsha was wondering. "Wait. As far as I know, Alejandro was there, right?" she retorted. Sigh. "Stop that, Harsha. I will go there because the new alpha female Andrasi of the Metablack Pack is there. She told me to help her pack because they are just small in number," I replied, and seemed like Harsha believe in me. "And I'm willing to help her because the pack she belongs to originally studied the law in the human world. And she was forced to inherit the knowledge that their pack learned in the other world. And when she knew that I was the heir of Vermont, she seek my help." A few moments later and I reached my destination. Not from afar, I heard the murmuring of the people. I quickly entered the gate and I heard again the voices of two men arguing. It sounds familiar to me, so I immediately went closer to them. "You are the mastermind for this, right? So don't act like you are clean to the eyes of these people," Alejandro shouted indignantly. "I told you. I didn't know this. I'm in jail when it happens," Sion said, directly stated that he was not the mastermind. "So what is this all about?" Alejandro retorted, and the people around them gives their own opinion. Alejandro is right. "You plan this." "Yes, you are." When I heard them throwing ill words at Sion, I looked around and I saw Severus and Uncle standing there. And I quietly went to my uncle to greet him. But before I went closer, Severus saw me and he waved his hand over me. I slapped my forehead as I saw what he doing. And because of that, Alejandro saw me. He was still sitting in his wheelchair and looked so pale. I halted my steps and swallowed the saliva in my mouth as I saw the situation of Alejandro. I ignored Severus and walked toward Alejandro. I felt Severus would get mad at me, but I didn't care. I wanted to greet Alejandro and ensure his situation. "What's your feeling right now?" "Do you feel better?" I asked him, and Alejandro nodded his head. I wanted to ask him more, but Severus came and grabbed my arms. He looked at me seriously and threw it away to Alejandro. I really felt annoyed and disrespected, but I just calmed myself. I didn't want to fight here. I rolled my eyes at Severus and stepped away from him. Suddenly, Andrasi came and she stood in the corner. Her eyes were wandering around the flock of men, and saw from her eyes the confusion for something. Suddenly, Alpha Gregor called the attention of Andrasi. "Andrasi, I want you to tell me everything that happened last night." Andrasi went to the center and she looked around. Her innocent eyes were filled with fear as she spoke. "The hooligans. I smell the hooligans." And before she finished her words, I felt the same thing that she visioned. The hint of rouges was coming. Author's POV. And after the two women felt the waves of rouges coming, Sion went to his territory. He gathered all his forces and soldiers. "Mens. I want you to get ready for the war that we craving. We need to strengthen our forces because the real battery would begin," Sion shouted, and all of his soldiers raised their weapons in the air. Author's POV. When Andrasi visioned the rouges attacked, Hirre immediately offered her to back to her pack with her family. She was worried about the safety of these small packs. She walked toward Andrasi to propose something important. "Andrasi, I think you need to go back to your pack right now," Hirre said seriously, and Andrasi did not refuse. Andrasi was very thankful for the concern that Hirre put into them. "Thank you, Hirre, for the concern," she replied, and she walked out with Severus's troops according to what Hirre planned to do. However, Alpha Gregor did not agree to that. He did not want to put his pack in danger. He wanted to fight with Andrasi's pack even though they were just mere small packs. "Wait. I think I'm the one who needed to go first. We know that Andrasi is incapable. If this place was occupied by the rouges, it will turn bad," Alpha Gregor said indignantly, which made her shake her head. She never expected that this Alpha would turn selfish and stupid. "No. She is not our puppet. We need to take her away from here with the protection of Severus's troops. And if Moonchaser Pack takes over it, so it will lead into fusion," Hirre retorted as she heard the selfishness of the other Alpha. Everyone heard the braveness of Hirre, and their eyes thrown at the Alpha who could not accept that woman would put him in shame. "And who dare you to decide? You are not an Alpha to rule over us," the Alpha angrily shouted as he felt Hirre put him in the lower position. His eyes were filled with anger. He was shivering in his position and wanted to put Hirre in shame too. But when Uncle Lucio saw what was the reaction of the Alpha toward Hirre, they managed to calm the situation first. "Hey! Stop that. Hirre was right. So you need to listen to her first." Uncle Lucio cut the tension between the two when he felt the anger of the Alpha. He did not want someone would put Hirre shame. "Yes. She's right. We need to face the rouges. Andrasi is incapable. She cannot do it, but we can," Alejandro added, and he also agreed that Hirre was right. Hirre looked at Alejandro. She couldn't believe that Alejandro would be sided with her. She smiled briefly, and those smiles made Severus knot his eyebrows. He shook his head and clenched his hands into a fist. He suddenly felt jealous as he saw the sweet smile of his woman to the other man. Hirre averted her gaze away from Alejandro and looked at Severus, who standing firmly. His hands were in his pocket while looking seriously at Alpha Gregor. And even Severus was bad-tempered because of annoyance recently. He also stood to the side of Hirre. He went to the front to block the anger of Alpha Gregor. "She is right. You will stay here and let them out," Severus said, which made the Alpha grit his teeth in anger. He never thought that everyone would ever be sided with him, but because he felt that he didn't have any person who might prove that he was right, he just put himself in silence and accepted the decision of Hirre. When Hirre felt the tension was over, she looked at Andrasi and nodded at her. Andrasi followed her out of the place, but before Hirre went outside, she heard Alpha Gregor cursing her. "You low-key woman who depends on men. How pitiful you are," Alpha Gregor muttered, which made Hirre take a deep breath before she passed by to Alpha Gregor. But her anger made her beast come out. She faced the Alpha with her fiercest look. "Damn it. No one helps me. And every F to the power of seeking word you say is a damn mistake. And if you can't accept my decision as the right one, so don't attack me with your useless stupid attack on a woman like me," Hirre growled indignantly. And she quickly turned around after throwing her words to Alpha Gregor. Everyone was shocked when they heard Hirre's words. And even Alpha Gregor was also freezing in his position because he did expect that Hirre would fight back. However, at that time, Beta Leo and Sion were whipping the trespassing hooligans in their basement. The horrifying sounds echoed and the scream filled the massive room. The hooligans were tied up, filled with scars, and bloody floors. Leo reprimanded them severely so they could not fight themselves. Every hit of the heated silver bar to their body made a horrifying scream that someone who might hear them thought it was hell. They were helpless and even they were hopeless. But when Sion saw how Leo punished them, he angrily went to Leo to scold him. "Leo. They are here because of self-preservation so they can have somewhere to return to. Not to kill them and feel them the deathless punishment. Stop doing those stupid things," Sion indignantly growled as he saw the hardship that the hooligans experience at the hands of Leo. "So what do you think I need to do?" Leo asked as he stopped doing that nightmare to the hooligans. "Tell them that if they want a war, they can go out of this place and live their own life. And we will never stop them if they wish. But they are not allowed to use my name for doing that," Sion said. Leo looked at him. His eyes were filled with something doubtful. "Are you listening?" Sion asked again as he saw how serious was Leo. But instead of answering, Leo nodded his head. He agreed with the decision of Sion. But after a while, Leo walked away quietly. Sion looked around too, but Leo was gone. And when he went to the lower basement, the horror faced him. Their arrested hooligans were unable to speak again. Author's POV. A week later. "Toot. Sion? What's now?" Hirre asked when she received a call from Sion. "Let's enjoy. My men killed them. So you don't have to worry. Nothing left but their blood in the basement," Sion replied, and it made Hirre feel timid. She widened her eyes, as she lost her courage to listen. She couldn't swallow the news that she heard from Sion. Even though those hooligans spread nightmares to other packs and were a real pain in the ass for the others, she knew that they needed to have the right to depend on themselves. Hirre shook her head. She sat on the couch with her heavy heart. But even she felt that kind of pain inside her. The rules of the hooligans and Druges were different. The one who made a mistake would be punished with death. And that was the reality that she could not interfere. I want to go back to my house," Hirre said as she felt something burdened in her heart. "Why?" Severus looked at her wondering. He kneeled on his left knee and faced Hirre, who's sitting in his front. Just I want," she replied, swallowing the mouthful of saliva on her mouth. "Don't worry. I can visit you here all the time. And if you wish, I can go back home if I have work." Severus smiled as he replied. He tapped the cold hands of Hirre as he gave her a sweet and courageous aura. Hirre was speechless. She felt awkward since Severus and she were cats and dogs in the house. She gave Severus a cold look and Severus got her point. "Okay. Let's stop fighting nonsense things," he said, and Hirre kept her eyes on Severus. She took a deep breath before she agreed to Severus' plan. Days passed and it turned into weeks, and Hirre felt better because the war between the hooligans was ended. She was sitting on her office chair, waiting for Andrasi to come. "Ms. Monreal. Sorry for this late hour." Andrasi came and she immediately walked toward the oak table. "Please sit down." Hirre smiled as she welcomed Andrasi, who quickly sat on Hirre's front. "Anyway, I have a plan for the future of your pack. Please check it out." Hirre stretched her arm and gave Andrasi the envelope, containing the plan for the Metablak pack. Andrasi smiled and she saw how good Hirre was in planning. And she thought that she did not wrong in choosing a person to lie on. She reads the content. "Thanks a lot, Ms. Monreal. This will be a big help to us. I promise that we will be looking forward to this," Andrasi said, and she was happy seeing how passionate was Hirre and what she doing. "Don't worry. In this coming campaign for the next Alpha King, my support will be with Severus. So you become a first lady if that will happen," Andrasi added, and it made Hirre widen her eyes. She smiled briefly as she averted her gaze away from Andrasi. She never thought that this alpha female would say those words. Thank you for that. But I think the campaign is Severus's business. And I have my own. So I think I will end up protecting my pack. Like you. I don't want my pack will steal by men," Hirre said. And those words were overheard by Severus, who was arrived. He stayed outside as he heard every word of Hirre. He felt pain in his heart as he heard those words from Hirre. He shook his head and thought that Hirre didn't want to marry him. And the woman he knew to become his Luna questioning his love. And before he heard again the conversation of the two, he walked away, holding the pain inside his heart. He never thought that for the things that happened between them, Hirre never planned to marry him. His heart was pumping so hard and he could not take it anymore. He took his phone from his pocket and called his father. "Dad, I want to cancel the wedding preparation," Severus said seriously. In the tone of his voice, the trace of pain was not there and it puzzled the king. "Why?" King asked, wondering. "Just do it," Severus coldly replied, and he hung up the call. At night. Hirre was riding in her car. She knitted her eyebrows and her heart was bursting in anger because the whole day was come but Severus did not come to their office. She took the direction of Severus' pack where her house was located. She was mad and wanted to question Severus for not picking her up with himself. After a few minutes, she reached the pack and she went to the office. Her anger made her footsteps heavy and faster. But her anger turned blue as she heard a conversation between Severus to his father. "Father. Hirre is wealthy. And she will be a great use to the campaign," Severus said, and it pierced the heart of the woman outside the door. Hirre could not believe what she heard. She did not expect that Severus wanted to use her wealth to win the campaign. Is he desperate for the position? she asked herself, and she could not resist the tears to flow down. Is he planning to hold the wedding because of this F to the power of seeking campaign? She thought, and she clenched her hand into a fist. She couldn't breathe and her knees were shivering. Her heart tightened so hard, and it seems like it did not want to pump anymore. The way she looked at Severus turned into disappointment and anger. She trusted Severus and thought that it was real love. But everything she heard was enough to go somewhere where she could heal the scars that Severus made. Stomp. 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 When Hirre heard someone was coming, she quickly leaves the place and ran away. She did not want someone to see her crying for nothing. She reached the corridor and lay her back on the wall. She held her chest and looked at the ceiling to prevent her tears from flowing. It's hurt. Harsha. It's hurt. Hirre called her wolf. She couldn't explain the pain, but she knew Severus just used her for his own sake. Here's POV. 1 month later. The students rushed on their way. Some were talking in the hallways. The laughter of the students was heard along the school entrance. I felt loner, but it was not a matter. I'm here not to have friends but to study. I took the way down the 2nd floor and went to the library, away from the noises. I wanted to free myself first from the memories behind me, most of all, about Severus. It was been a month since I left his pack and went to the human world. But the scars and pain were still here every time he did not give me his time to look for me. Luckily, when I looked at the library, I saw that a few students were reading and studying. I took my identification card and went to the lobby. Get in. The librarian said seriously. She was a terror librarian, I guess, because of her fearless aura. I entered and I chose the last chair at the very end of the library. I wanted to make my time more useful. The deafening silence filled the entire room. And that ambience made me feel better. I was sitting alone in the library. I am here to study the law of the human that I could use in my world. I do mainly studying this because I wanted to adopt the law of humans. Actually, when I started this, I arrested some werewolves who tried to disobey the rules. But because my knowledge was not too far, I need to study more. While I'm reading, I could not stop thinking about Severus. I expected every day that he would come to me and explain everything. But months passed, but he didn't even talk to me. Even seeking me out was like a shadow in the dark. I closed the book that I have been reading and took a deep breath. For almost a week that I'm reading the book of the law, today was the only time that I felt the pain that was still bothering me since then. I looked at my wristwatch. Might 20 minutes of reading be enough? I stood up thinking about the things that made my day worst. I think I need to relax. I muttered and I went to the cottage not far from the school. It was a nice place to relax because of the fine green trees that shaded me from the sun. The ambience was cool and I sat on the bench. But the moment I wanted to relax turned into a nightmare when I heard the news on the television. Today news. I was surprised because of the sudden appearance of the broadcast news on human TV. I knitted my eyebrows when I saw the content of the news. The campaign for king's position was been declared by the previous king Ansel. And the person that would be opponents for the position. The best of the best opponents. Alpha Prince Severus and Alpha Gregory. The news made me feel annoyed when I heard my name saying that I was much richer than Gregory's mate. And Severus has an advantage for that because of my identity. I felt many eyes were looking at me because some humans watching the news too. I hid myself and walked faster. I didn't want to look back unless I reached the place where no one might see me. But while I'm running away, my knees were shaking. I could not believe that Severus would use my identity for his career. My heart beats fast because of anger. I felt my cheeks burning because of anger. How dare him? How can he sleep better while he planning this shit? I know he is the mastermind of this. They plan it. I muttered indignantly as I clenched my hands into a fist. I stopped running. I wanted to get the station numbers. I stopped at the front of the big screen and stayed at the bus station. I would not tolerate him for using me. I would clear myself as soon as possible. However, before I dialed the number, I widened my eyes as I saw the next news that suddenly appeared on the television. Oh. And no. Only these words appeared in my mouth. I could speak. Even to hold my cell phone. I felt my heart skip beating. I felt the shivering down to my spine. I looked around. Goodness, there was no one except me. Flash report. The mystery identity of Ms. Hirre Monreal's grandmother is now confirmed. She is the Grand Chief of Witches. Live report from this trusted channel. The reports said, and it made me feel I was on the ring of fire. Beads of sweat were now forming and eventually flowed down my temple. The things that I hid the most from Severus were now revealed to everyone. I couldn't handle this. But I knew that this news would spread faster than I thought. I sat down, weakly. I knew my hybrid identity was now on top of this issue. I heard a lot from the news and it all crumpled in my head as they said that I'm not a pure werewolf but a hybrid one. But there was a big question in my head. Who was the stupid one who wasted their time searching my bloodline? Because as far as I knew, I'm the only one who knew about my identity because my grandfather did not tell anyone except me. So why this news revealed my real identity? And I thought that there was no one behind this but Severus's opponent, Gregor. I knew it was Gregor's plan so my name would be in the hot topic. If that happened, the advantages would go to him since my identity was revealed. I felt my beast was going outside my body. But I felt that there was more strength that come out to my body when I thought about Severus. I knew he would hate me now. I was nothing to him even though I was the granddaughter of the billionaire. I could not breathe as I thought about that. My tears flows and the pain in my heart won against my anger. I did not know how to face this. I cried while my knees were folded. I could not believe that this nightmare would come. I'm not ready for this, that was the truth. Mr. Lucio. What can you say about this? Where is Ms. Monreal? Is she hiding her real identity? Why is she not here? What is your opinion about the things that the anonymous person revealed? The questions of the reporters made me raise my head and I was worried as I saw Uncle Lucio surrounded by the media personnel. And the most put me in fear was when I saw that there were lots of people surrounding the states of my grandpa. No. I just muttered and quickly stood and headed back. I needed to hide myself so I wore sunglasses and a hoodie black jacket. I wore also a face mask so no one would see me. Here's POV. Huff. Huff. I ran and ran as fast as I could. I felt that there were eyes that watching my steps. I did not turn back to the place I came from. There were mixed emotions that suddenly drew into my heart. The anger, anxiety, and fear. I was worried about my grandpa because I knew that at this moment, he would chase by the media to ask him. I ran and reached the highway. I was a little afraid when a black car appeared and stopped in my front. I thought it was a media and it really made me shiver. I stopped and went in the opposite direction. I didn't want someone to catch me here. I ran faster and went to the next street. I needed to go away from the strange car. And even though it looked expensive, I needed to protect myself. The beads of sweat were still flowing down my forehead. And even my knees were tired. I needed to go away from this. But before I made another couple of steps away from the car, my name echoed and it made me turn around. Because there was no one knew me than my family. "Miss. Here. Thanks, I found you." The voice of a man called me. I halted my steps and looked back. And I saw a familiar face driving the car. He was wearing black suits and from his aura, I knew he was really tired looking for me. "Zion?" I was surprised as I saw the driver of my grandpa. I looked at the passenger seat but he was the only one sitting there. Zion immediately opened the door and he guided me to enter the car. I felt safe as I sat on the seat. My heartbeat still racing but I needed to calm myself. It's not a joke but I was thankful that there was someone who cared about me, and it was my grandpa. "Do you have any information about my grandpa?" I asked him worriedly. "Don't worry, he is fine. Actually he sent me here to bring you back to the estate," he replied as he drove the car away from the city. I felt that there was a thorn that pierced out my chest as I heard from Zion that he was safe. I laid my back on the seat and thought about the things happened recently. The silence filled the entire car when I closed my eyes to calm myself. I knew I'm not facing the hot issue that anyone would talk about. "Miss here? We're here." I heard the low manly voice of Zion, waking me up. I was surprised as I saw myself in the compound of Grandpa's estate. My heart was jumping for joy as I immediately took the house. "Grandpa?" I called my grandfather as I reached the living area. "Oh, here. I'm glad you're back." Grandpa greeted me with a kiss on my cheeks. He was happy to see me again after a few months I spent in the human school. "Oh Grandpa, thanks God as you take the scene that media throwing at you. And you think for me even the people surrounded you recently." I hugged him tightly. I felt that he cared about me. "It's a small matter, honey. The important is you are safe." Grandpa kissed my head as he gave me his warm hug. "Grandpa, how about Uncle Lucio? Is he all right?" I asked as I departed from his body. He tapped my hand and smiled. "Don't worry, I already sent my men to take care of them." He calmly looked at me. I nodded my head in hopes that everyone would be all right. Grandpa guided me to the couch. He already prepared some tea on the table to make me calm. "Here, how can Severus stew to fight back?" Grandpa asked me and it made me knit my eyebrows. "Grandpa, I know he can make it without me," I replied, showing the anger that now running in my veins. Grandpa looked at me directly. He was wondering why I acted like this towards Severus. I shut my mouth since I realized that my grandfather did not know the things that now make me feel annoyed. "Don't mind it, Grandpa." I slowly averted my gaze away from him as I added. I didn't want to give him another thought. I knew in myself that I just making myself angry toward Severus. I just put my emotion into the thing he has done. Even though the real reason was the moment that he did not talk to me since then. But deep inside my heart, my anger was not too big to forget him. Severus's POV. Flash report. The mystery identity of Ms. Hirre Monreal's grandmother is now confirmed. She is the Grand Chief of Witches. Live report from this trusted channel. After hearing the news from the human world, my whole world freezes. I never expected that Hirre's identity would fall from this. Yes, Mr. Vermont always told me some point of Hirre's identity and it was out of the thought of the people around us. I'm the only person that could understand the real sense of Mr. Vermont's words. But when I knew that she was a half-blood witch, it really made me stop for a second. I could not talk or move. She might not be simple, but it is hard to think. Because I never expected this from her. What? Here is a mixed-blood wolf? Deimos asked inside me. He never expected that, and I was well. Yeah. She is a witch. I answered, emphasizing how much I couldn't imagine all of this. I love Hirre. And I knew even though she doesn't want to be with me, I cared for her. I suddenly thought about her situation right now. The images of the media personnel popped into my mind. I was a little worried for my mate. And even she was half-blood, my feelings toward her were still the same. Severus's POV. I was sitting on the balcony, giving myself some piece of time to think about Hirre. I was a little bit distracted by the issue that was now linked to her. Nobody was here. I'm just waiting for the time to pass. Gamma Elias and Beta Leo were not here because they were doing something downstairs. I took a deep breath before I picked up the glass of wine on the table. I felt worried about Hirre. Even she hurt me secretly. And for almost a month after I heard her saying that she didn't want to marry me. She was gone like a bubble in the air. She did not try to call me or text me where she was. And even though I felt angry and in pain, there was a gap in my heart that wanted to fill by her presence. I felt like I was looking at a needle in the hay because I couldn't see her anymore. And even I tried to contact her, no sense was linked to her. Her smell was gone. I looked for her in every pack, but even Alejandro had no idea where she was. And at that moment, I felt her love was gone. And she just ghosted me after making me fall in love. Yes, I missed her appearance, her smell and her heat. I'm looking forward to the time that she would come back and told me that everything she said before was just a joke. That she would love me and accept me as her alpha. My heart beats fast. I thought that the liquor I drank for almost half an hour affected my nervous system. I mean by back on the chair. I wanted to relax for a moment. Severus, can I talk with you? A voice distracted my silence. I looked backward and I saw my father standing behind me. I raised my right hand with wine and he smirked at me. I knew that even if I did not invite him for a drink, he would join me. I poured another red wine into the glass and gave it to him after he sat beside me. The table was between us, and we faced the land area of my pack. I guess you already heard the news, he said while we toasted the glass of wine. Yeah. I briefly replied to him. I was a little bit surprised because he said those words to me. I thought he would tell me that I need to stay away from here. I was a little nervous about that. We both knew how witch blood was a great threat to the werewolves world. I heard his deep sigh as he looked at me. He put the glass of wine on the table and started to say a word. Severus. I know you. Unlike the other, you are not drinking alone. He looked at me and I saw from my peripheral vision the sadness that he felt toward me. I'm okay, father. I'm just thinking about Hirre, I replied, lowering my voice as I sipped the wine. Sigh. Severus. Why don't you go to her pack? You need to talk to her and comfort her. She needs you right now. My father told me, which made me turn taciturn. I could not tell him that Hirre was out of her pack. And we never met again, even contacted each other. I just smile at him briefly. He tapped my shoulder and gave me his positive smile. I continued drinking the wine and let the time pass. Anyway, I have something to do. I'll join you later, my father said, and he stood up. I nodded my head and he walked away. I left on the balcony and continued what I'm doing. I put down the glass and my attention was caught by the phone on the table. I swallowed my saliva before I took it. Like these past days, I always looking for Hirre's message. But as I thought, no messages were appearing on the screen. She was still ghosting me. My fingers were shaking as I typed her cell phone number. I never thought that I am the one who doing this, even though I was the one who got hurt. But, I wanted her update. I need to talk to her. And I felt something sparked within me when the phone rang. She answered my call. I could not speak as I heard Hirre's voice. Don't call me anymore. Her voice was mad, but I was happy because I knew she was still safe. I really didn't know why she acted like this. I wanted to question her for what she have done. But how stupid to think, because all of my ill feelings suddenly erase as I heard her. I felt that my tongue was unable to talk, and it goes back every time I wanted to tell everything I felt right now. Few words I say, but she was gone. I clenched my hands into a fist as I thought that I was a weak man. But it's okay, since finally got my call, even though she refused it for an instant. Even though she chose to ignore me again and hung up the call without hearing me, I was still happy. My heart beats faster than before when I could sense her again. She came back. I finally made up my mind, I would go to her pack and look for her right away. Elias, please tell to Sonia to prepare my clothes right now. I will go to Tyranny Pack. I quickly mind-linked Gamma Elias to inform him. And among all people who surrounded me, only Gamma Elias knew my feeling. Okay. But why? He answered me confusedly. I knew he wondering why I suddenly called him for this. I'll talk to you later. But for now, please do what I ordered. I told him and he agreed. I ended our mind link and I stood. I would go to my room to prepare myself. I leave the balcony immediately. A moment later and I reached my room. I quickly took a hot bath and I wore the clothes that Sonia prepared for me. She was my maid for almost 10 years. She was a mother to me because she was 20 years older than me. I fixed myself and went downstairs. Gamma Elias standing on the stairs, looking at me confusedly. Can I go with you? He asked me while looking at me meaningfully. I halted my steps and stared at him with serious eyes. Stay here. We have problems to fix. Our pack needs you, I replied, giving him my fiercest look. Man, I know you. Don't have to hide it. She flickered his eyes as he smirked. I knew he didn't believe me. I continued walking down and passed by him. He knitted his eyebrows as he saw me ignoring him for the first time. Talk to you later, I shouted and went to the parking area. I drove my car away from the house and took the direction toward Mr. Vermont's house. I was hoping that my senses didn't fail. And Hirre was at her home, sparing me her time. Here's POV. It's already late in the morning. I felt exhausted because of the whole day's stress cause of the issue that now I faced. I was laying on my bed when I heard my phone ringing. Because I was boredom, I answered it even though I didn't have time to talk with people. I rolled my eyes and slapped my forehead as I saw Severus calling me at this moment. Why is he calling me in this F to the power of seeking situation? I ignored his call and took a deep breath. I wanted to put myself in calm before answering him. But when I took my phone off the table, the words that I heard from Severus before I decided to move away echoed inside my brain. I clenched my hands into a fist and I reluctantly answered his call. "Don't call me anymore," I shouted at him indignantly. I didn't want to hear his voice at this moment. I thought that he just used me for his fame. When I ended up the call, I never heard his voice. I lost my temper and I felt I was in the den of hell right now. Ugh! I felt upset. I thought that the heaven and earth befell on me. Here? I was surprised when I heard someone calling me outside. That was Uncle's voice. I thought it was better to talk to someone rather than think about Severus. "Can I come in?" he added, and I immediately jumped on my bed to open the door. "Uncle." I greeted him before he entered. "Here. Do you want to go outside?" he said as he gave me his smile. "Why not?" I replied, hiding the real feelings I had. "That's good. Anyway, Severus is here," he added, and I widened my eyes as I heard that kind of stuff. "What?" I suddenly replied to him with a shocked face. I could not imagine that Severus would go to our pack. "I'm looking forward to seeing you there in the living room." Uncle Lucio looked at me and he tapped my shoulder. "Hell no," I answered him because I didn't want to see Severus for now. Uncle knitted his eyebrows. I knew he was shocked by my sudden attitude. "What's wrong here?" he asked me, wondering. I really felt nervous to tell him the truth, but I need to hide it for a while. Never mind it." I turned around as I answered him back. I was hoping that he would never be asked me again. Anyway, I will go first. See you later," he replied, and I felt relieved as he told me that he was moving out. Thud. Thud. His footsteps were getting slower and the shutting door was heard. I immediately ran toward the door and opened it slightly. I wanted to see my uncle walking away. Uncle Lucio walked downstairs and I followed him secretly. When I reached the balcony, I hid behind the thick wall and backed at the things happening below. From my position, I could see people in the massive living room. I saw my grandfather taking a cup of tea. And Uncle Lucio was approaching him. I averted my gaze away from them and my attention was caught by the intoxicating smell from the right side of the couch. Severus was there, sitting like there was nothing happened before. He talking something to my grandfather. My blood boiled and I felt my nerves shaking in anger. I saw from Severus's eyes the willingness for achieving something. And I thought it was because he wanted the support of my grandpa for the campaign. I wanted to make a scene to get the attention of my grandpa so he would never agree to the plan of this jerk. "Here, are you sure that Severus trying to convince our grandpa?" Harsha suddenly spoke and I felt she have a point. I didn't have a piece of good evidence that Severus's intent for coming over here was for the campaign. However, even though I thought that Harsha was right, Severus still hurt me. I don't care if it's not what his intention is. Because for me, he just using us. I rolled my eyes as I replied. And because I was busy talking with Harsha, I didn't know that the other three in the living room were done talking. I peeked again and I was surprised because I supposed that they were still there, but, even their shadow was nothing. I quickly moved out of my hiding place and slowly went downstairs. The place was silent. There was no sign of people here. I felt relieved because Severus was gone. I looked around and I saw my uncle walking in the massive garden. He takes the direction of the black sports car. "Where they're going?" I muttered as I kept myself looking at him. Aside from Uncle, my grandfather entered the car and it puzzled me. Sigh. I took a deep breath and decided to go back to my room. I felt free for a moment because all of the Omega in the house were busy doing their job. I walked calmly but suddenly, I felt something strange. "What the F to the power of CK?" I muttered when I realized why this feeling was familiar. I halted my steps and I felt goosebumps all over my body. My heart skipped beating. I could not move. I felt there was something in this place that wanted me to stay here. The manly voice of this bastard Severus echoed inside my ear. I'm breathing heavily as I kept on standing. "Why are you here?" I asked him, trembling in my voice. Actually, I didn't want to ask him first. But I never thought that he was still here. "Here, I want to talk to you," he replied, and he slowly grabbed my hands. But I refused. I quickly stepped away from him. He was standing behind me and I didn't look back at him. "Please," he added, and he made another step towards me. But with every step he did, the farther our distance became. "Go away," I growled at him even though I felt my Harsha wanted to go out to have sex with his wolf. "Here. Don't move him away. I missed his wolf." Harsha begged me but I didn't care. All I wanted for now was to protect my heart away from this bastard. He was like a leech trying to sip fame by the use of my last name. I ignored Harsha like how I ignored Severus. "Please, here, I want to ask you. Just this time," he said, wanted me to spare his time, but I did not want to listen. "Enough. Go away. Now." I growled again. But how stubborn he was because he held my hand from behind. He used his force to make me look at him. I was at the point of anger as we faced each other. I seriously looked at him with a deadly stare. "What do you want from me, huh? Do you want my name? My wealth? My dignity to become a future king?" I shouted, and the feeling that I hid from everyone was shown. He widened his eyes. I saw from it the mixed emotions that he felt as he heard me saying those words. He knitted his eyebrows as he looked at me. "Why you can't speak? Do I'm right?" I added, and give him my fiercest look. "Where do you get that shit? Here? I'm not using you," he replied, and from the tone of his voice, I felt he was sincere. But I needed to become stronger. I would never let my guard down again. "Wow. Are you now out of your mind? Did you forget what you said before?" I angrily shouted again, and he shook his head. "What the hell are you saying here? Anyway, I think I'm the one who needed to ask you something. I think this stuff is a part of your tricks to lose me, right?" Severus replied, and even I saw from his eyes the anger and puzzlement about what I said. He's still lowering his pride. Severus's POV. "Coming from you, Severus. How ridiculous." Hirre's words puzzled me the most. I could not get her point. I did not want to put my hands over her even though I was at the point of being angry. "Hirre. Why are you blaming me? Why are you saying that words? Even you are the one who hurt me? I replied when I couldn't control myself not to tell her what I felt, so I did not lower my tone. What was on earth she could say that I hurt her even though she was the first who did that? Is she out of her mind? Ha ha ha. Hirre insulted me. I felt she allowing me to get mad and threw away the anger I had inside. I clenched my hands into a fist, trying to calm myself. Because I'm not here to tell her what I heard before she was suddenly gone and left me. And I am here because I wanted to see her and asked my intent for visiting her pack. Here, listen. I'm not here to argue with you. I wanted to clear everything, I said, giving her my low tone of voice, hoping that she would do it so. But she just kept on glaring at me as she growled. I said no. Leave me alone. Hirre was still acting the same. She walked away from me and I did not have any choice but to show what attitude she wanted. I didn't wait for her to make another step and immediately grabbed her hand and pinned her to the wall. I saw from her eyes the uncertainties as she looked at me. But even though she was shocked at what I did, she didn't show it after all. I moved closer to her and she looked slowly at my fist that's still gripping her right wrist. Let me go, she shouted, but I didn't move away from her. If she did not want to talk to me in a good way, I would talk to her by this. Hirre kept on struggling with her body. But because I'm much stronger than her, I could keep her in the same position. I will never let you go until you learn how to talk to me calmly, I said while my face was 2 feet closer to hers. She seriously glared at me. I knew she would kick me because she could not move her upper body. I stepped much closer and our bodies touched each other. Let me go, she said indignantly as she felt her breast squeezing because I didn't give her any space to move. I will let you go if you will tell me something, I replied to her. Hirre turned taciturn. She did not move as I looked closer to her. She slowly tilted her head so our eyes couldn't meet. I smell the fragrance of her body. Her neck and her skin made me stop talking for a moment. I felt she was now calm, so I stepped backward. Hirre was still averting her gaze away from me. And because I needed to ask her, I slowly let go of her right arm and put my palm on her soft pinkish cheek. I held her face and moved it to look at me. Hirre seriously faced me. Her eyes were fearless and there was hidden meaning behind her eyes. But even though she was a little mad, she didn't reluctant to follow my move. But after a moment of pause, she could handle the situation and averted her gaze away from me again. I knew she have something that she doesn't want me to feel. Hirre. I heard the news, I said to her. I didn't waste time and told her what I knew. She quickly looked at me. Her eyes were wide and I felt the fear in every blink of her eyes. I heard the beating of her heart. It's not the simple feeling of unpleasantness but fear. I could also hear every flow of her saliva as she wanted to water the dryness of her throat. I knew I'm not wrong. Severus, please go away, she said, lowering her voice. Her attitude now was far from the attitude she had shown recently. But I didn't move as well. I kept my position on her front. Tell me who you are? I asked her. I wanted to hear the words that I wanted to know from her tongue. What do you mean? She asked me while trying not to look at me. Who are you? A werewolf or a witch? I asked her as I held her arm tightly. She was speechless. She just tilted her head again to prevent our eyes met again. I felt her hands were shaking. There were beads of sweat forming on her temple. I felt the pressure that she hid in front of me. Here. Tell me, who you are. I kept on questioning her. I wanted to hear from her own the answers that I needed to know. I tightly clenched her wrist again. I did not want to do this, but I needed it. Here, tell me, I shouted again. I felt that every word I say leaves a scar on her heart. But I would not stop asking her until she did not answer me. I saw that she biting her lower lips as she forced her tears not to come out. Yes, I felt the same pain every time I saw her teary eyes. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I looked at her and she finally looked at me again. Her eyes were filled with sadness and there were mixed emotions that wanted me to convince her that she was still okay. And what if I'm a witch? Or a werewolf? I know even if I said you one of these, you will never treat me better, she said, and her tears escaped from her eyes. She used her left hand to move my hands which holding her right wrist. So you mean, the news is right? You are a witch? I replied, and even though I felt I was right, I was still asking her. Yes. And what if I was a witch? Are you going to treat me lower than the lowest? Are you going to blame my identity because you will be lost in the campaign? Or you will be denied me as your mate, and a future Luna because I'm a witch? She asked me and every word she say struck my heart. I felt the sharpness of reality every time her tears came out. Even I wanted to tell her that it was not what I mean. Our world knew how inferior the hybrid one was. I tried to comfort her but she moved away every time I tried to touch her face. Here. I just called her name because I could not speak. And might she was right, I could stand high if she was a witch? Because in our world, every witch has no space and no authority. They were just a mere one that causes continual trouble or distress to our werewolves' world. Anything else to say? She asked me but I could not speak. I just shook my head and let her go. Do not go here ever again, she warned me, and it quickly put my subconscious go back again to the reality. I felt my heart tearing apart as I saw the sadness on her face. I didn't want to see it. It's not what I wanted, even what I wished for. Here. Talk with me again. I ordered her but she just shook her head. Go home, now. She replied coldly. I felt she was serious but I needed to turn everything right. Here, please. Just give me your time. I begged her but she looked serious in her words. I moved my hand to touch her skin but she stepped backward. Go home. Now, she shouted, and it caused her guards to come over us. They saw us fighting and I felt I was in the hot seat. I did not force her to talk to me. And when I stepped backward, she ran away from me. Her guards followed her. Pardon. But Miss Hillary wanted you to go back home. One of her guards said. I didn't speak again and I just kept my eyes looked here running up to her room. Severus's POV. I felt something different inside me. I could not understand why here doing this to me. I knew that I didn't hurt her, but why she was acting like this? And I'm not stupid not to feel the coldness that she wanted to make me feel. And when the guards blocked the way toward Hirre's room, I did not force myself to chase her. I just put in my mind that she needed some time to rest. Tell her that I will wait for her here. I ordered the guards but they just looked at each other. I knew what the meaning of that looked like. And I could not blame them because I heard that Hirre ordered them not to let me closer to her this time. It's okay. I sadly agreed and I stepped backward. When I walked away, I heard my phone ringing. Severus, did you talk with Hirre? Mr. Vermont's voice echoed in my ear. I swallowed my saliva as I heard him asking me about that stuff. I took a deep breath because I suggested they act like they were going somewhere so I could talk with Hirre privately. Actually, he was the one who told me about the situation that Hirre faced today. And I promised him that I was willing to help Hirre with her problem. Sorry, but she did not want to talk to me. I answered him and I felt pain every time I pronounced that words. Sigh. I heard the deep breath of Mr. Vermont in the other line. I felt how he cared about his granddaughter. Sorry, Mr. Vermont, but her decision is hers, not mine. I cannot help her if she doesn't want to, I said, emphasizing how Hirre ignored me. Okay. Don't worry, I will talk to her later. See you in the cafe, he said before he hung up the call. When I told him everything, I walked away and gave Hirre the time she wanted. I drove my car to meet Mr. Vermont and Uncle Lucio at one of his human cafes. It was rarely visited by someone because of its high-level service. Only powerful and well-known people could afford it. I parked my limo inside the massive cafe garage and their cars were already there. I took the way toward the front door and showed my VIP card. The front desk personnel guided me to the secret room. And I did not really expect that I'm here on one of their luxurious estates. I went down and the room was getting silent. Only the toast of the wines could hear. The man in his black suit swiped his card and we pursued to the VIP room. Severus, come in. Mr. Vermont called my attention and I give him a warm smile. I sat in his front and his bodyguard poured an expensive wine on the glass. I looked around and thought that Mr. Lucio was there, but only Mr. Vermont with his respected guard, Shion, was there. Severus, I wanted to tell you the things that happened recently. You know, it's better to talk in person rather than on the phone. He laughed but I could not sense how funny his words were. I just smiled at him and sipped the wine. Anyway, Mr. Vermont, we both know that we face the biggest issue that may affect not only Hirre but we also. So I wanted to help Hirre about that, I said, and he looked at me seriously. Actually, I'm so worried about Hirre. I didn't know how can I convince her to go outside to feel a better air to breathe, Mr. Vermont replied. I knitted my eyebrows because of what he said. Mr. Vermont, can I ask something? Do having hybrid blood can be dangerous? I asked Grandpa because as far as I knew, if a person has this mixed blood, it might lead to death if it was not established well. And it would only happen if it clashes inside. And I was really worried about Hirre. I didn't want to see her in this kind of situation which might lead to danger. I didn't want to lose her. Because if that would happen, I did not know how could I start again. Suddenly, Mr. Vermont drank his wine again. I saw in his eyes the mixed emotions that he had. Yes. It's really dangerous. And you are right, it can lead to death. His words made me stop sipping my wine. I felt there was a thorn that pierced my heart. I looked at him slowly, wishing that it was what I thinking. Hirre is different. Because unlike her mother Ganymede, she is still having two kinds of power. She did not show any kind of weakness inside her. And until now, her strength was still on her. But only the werewolf power was the only power that she used for now, and I'm afraid if she learned magic. His words brought me again into the nightmare. I didn't know if I would cherish or not toward Mr. Vermont's words. So you mean, she was still in danger? I asked him, worrying. He nodded his head and did not speak again. I knew I was right. Hirre's foot was not on the ground. I could not believe what I heard. My sweats formed and I felt there was another thorn that pierced through my body. Third-person POV. Hirre was sitting silently on the couch near the window. She was holding her phone while looking for something on it. She tilted her head at the glass window. Aside from her phone, she was also holding her tears to avoid it from coming out to her eyes. Oh my! Really? The heir of the wealthy personality is a mixed blood? I think Prince Severus will ignore that witch now. Wealthy or not, she is just a mere witch. Oh my! I don't know how the prince may handle this. For sure, the prince will abandon that witch. Ha ha. I guessed the other party will win against Severus. The social media was too loud in talking about her identity. They were giving their own opinion in each other about the issue. Most of them were judging on one side and thought that Hirre was have not any position to win over Severus. Hirre swallowed her saliva as she felt the dryness of her throat. She stood and walked around. She was hoping that the comments she read recently were just a dream and that if she opened her eyes it would become just an imagination. After a moment of pause, she went to her bed and took a sit. She took a deep breath before she looked again at her phone screen and began to scroll again. Every time she took a look at the comments section, her heart tore apart. She felt every single word that they said pierced her heart. She saw how many people bashed her identity. She felt that her wealth could not do anything to help herself from those people. Because all of the news, and the content that appeared on social media was all about her. Thousands and millions of people shared and posted the topic about her. And no one stood by her side. It was the things that made her feel sad. Because even Severus was silent and didn't show himself to the media. Thud. She threw her phone away and it hit the wall. She sobbed on her knees and started to cry. She didn't want to see again the stuff that linked to her. And even how many times she cried, her tears were all wasted. Nothing would happen if she let those people put her down. Hirre. Stop crying. Harsha spoke and she tried to comfort Hirre from this sadness. Harsha. I don't know what will I do? What if they are right? What if Severus didn't give his care about us? Sniff. Hirre asked her wolf who also thought the same way as her. Nah. Don't think like that. If it happens, you can do it without them. Show them that we are strong enough. Harsha added, motivated Hirre not to let her guard down. Here's POV. When I heard Harsha's words, I really appreciate what she said. I lay on my bed and looked straight at the ceiling. I thinking about my plan. And while I made a line of thoughts in my mind, I suddenly realized that I'm an alpha female. And even if they threw me in the den of wolves, I could come back leading them. Harsha. You are right. I needed to become strong. I replied to her. I built in my mind that planning alone was better than having someone who is useless. So what is your plan now? Harsha asked me again. She was hoping that she would hear a good plan for me. I will stand alone and turn everything in right. I will eliminate discrimination. And I will give everyone peace and equality no matter who you are. Even if you are mixed blood or not. I said, holding the thought that I could make it alright. I would prove to them that being a hybrid was not a basis to become low and inferior to all clans. I was Hirre Monreal and I would show them the real name of being a true hybrid. But the problem was, I was now facing the biggest problem that now invading my will to do the things I planned. I need more time to get out of this judgmental world. I needed to learn more before I could turn this reality into a fair and good society. How about Severus? Harsha asked me, which made me stop thinking. Yes, Severus hurt me before, but at this moment, I'm seeking for his concern. But when I thought about the campaign, I suddenly thought about his future. I felt I would become selfish if I let him link with my destiny. I needed to get away from him before the campaign. Because the world we have was only for the werewolves, and if the people knew that his Luna was a witch, they might not trust him. Here, are you okay? Harsha asked me again as she did not receive my answer. My subconscious was back and I could not imagine that I was almost 2 minutes laying down without any movement. I become dull, thinking about Severus. Why, yeah. I'm okay. I'm just thinking about the campaign, I replied, bringing back the topic we shared together. So what's now? Harsha asked me again. I bit my lower lip before I replied. Because this decision was obviously about how I cared for Severus and not for myself. I guess we needed to stay away from Severus until I didn't turn everything into right. I sadly added, and I felt the pain that my words brought to Harsha. Sorry, Harsha. I know you missed his wolf, but we needed to protect his career. He is now running for being a king and his reputation was also linked to me. I hope you will understand. I sincerely explained to Harsha, hoping that she would never act insane again. Okay. But after this, I want to see his wolf again, she said, and I felt relief as she said those things to me. When I thought that everything would be okay, I locked Harsha for a while. Because I needed to plan by myself. I wanted to pursue my goals. And nothing gonna stopped my willingness to make this world fair. I looked at my phone in the corner of the room. I stared at it for a while because I hesitated to get it. I felt that every time I opened it, it would cause pain in my heart. Cring. 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 I heard the vibration of my phone. I hesitated to put it, but I felt there were some that it wanted to say. I jumped on my bed and quickly walked to my phone, hoping that it was not bad news. Here's POV. I immediately took the phone to the floor. It was still ringing when I read the name on the screen. Severus was calling me. I clenched my hand and hesitantly answered the phone call. Because aside from the bashers and posts of the people, I knew something that made me feel pity for myself. I felt sadness and pain when I knew that before I entered the academy, Severus cancelled the preparation of the wedding he prepared for me. I really didn't know why Severus cancelled the wedding plan. Even how many times I thought about it, I could not find the reason behind that. All I know, he just using me, and all that show was just a trick to gain my support. He was nothing but a real leech. Here, why don't you answer him? Maybe he has something to tell you. I was shocked when Harsha suddenly spoke to me. And she pushed me to talk with Severus. And even I was mad at Severus for using me. I knew that it was the right time to tell him what I wanted to do about ourselves. But there was something in my heart that telling me not. I took a deep breath and answered him. Hello? I asked him if he was still there. Oh. Thank you here for answering. Severus replied, and he felt happy hearing my voice again. However, I'm not sure if I would be happy too. There was emptiness because of the gap that I felt inside me. What do you want? I asked him coldly. I didn't want to entertain him again because of some reason. I wanted him to tell me his reason directly. "Here, I want you to come to my next campaign," he replied, and I was a little annoyed about that. And even anyone would feel the same thing I felt if they knew someone pushing them into the hatred of others. I thought he was trying to put us in shame because of what he said. "For what, huh?" I asked him coldly. Even though I was a little shocked by what he said, I did not express any gratitude for that. Yes, I did not expect that he would call me to invite me there, but I didn't want to ourselves in this situation. I want you to speak on my campaign as my Luna," he said, and it made me feel something worse. I didn't want his idea and it gave me little frustration. "What the hell are you thinking, Severus? Don't you see? All of them bashing me. I will be a great trouble to you, don't you ever understand that?" I retorted, raising my voice to show him my real beast. "Here, listen, please. Just one time, please." Severus begged me, but I could not know how I reacted. I wanted to ignore him for his sake. I didn't want to put him in a situation that he didn't wish for. I slapped my forehead and took a seat. I felt something strange inside me. I need to be calm before I lost my temper. "I'm so sorry, Severus. But I think you call the wrong person. I don't want to hear them or see them for a short period," I replied to him coldly, and I decided to end our call. But before I clicked the end button, he quickly spoke, and it made me halt what I'm doing here. "It's not a matter. Their opinion could not feed you. They are just mere citizens muttering behind your back. They are just bashers that nothing can do in their to the power of seeking life," Severus said, and suddenly knitted my eyebrows. Is he trying to pursue me to face this situation? Or is he just using me again to gain people who support him by telling him to reject me? I thought, and I didn't give my option to Severus. I wanted him to be puzzled by what I'm thinking. "Here, wait. Please, listen. I invite you to go with me to the campaign because I think it's better to speak out all your thoughts. The media is powerful here, this may help you," Severus added, and I narrowed my eyes, thinking about what he said to me. I suddenly turned taciturn. I was giving myself some time to think about that. But even it was a good idea, I did not want to put him in this mocking situation. I'm not a perfect person that would go with him in the campaign. He has a goal and I have mine. And even he really hit my heart because of how he thought I needed to refuse. "I am so sorry. I don't want," I replied, and ended up our call. I ignored his plan and it gave me a little heartache. I lost the last hope that I'm looking for because of pride and anger. I felt the dryness of my throat because of my last words to him. After I left the line, I felt there was a thorn that was now stuck inside me. It seemed like tearing apart and melted ice that turned into cold water. I felt cold, I could not breathe. I didn't want to do this, but I needed it. "Here, why you didn't tell him why you doing this?" Harsha asked me. She was now in grief as she felt that Severus Wolf was far from her. "I can't," I replied as I felt the beads of tears flow down my cheeks. I felt my heart squeezing tightly. Here, I think he was right. The televised speech helps you to speak out what is your opinion about our identity. It's the best way to correct the perspective of the people around us. Here, don't let your anger win against our will," Harsha said, and I took a deep breath. Harsha seemed like thinking better than me. I was thankful because she was willing to give me a piece of advice rather than giving me a headache. I nodded my head as I felt that she was right. I need to use the opportunity to tell everyone that being of mixed blood was not always inferior. We must give everyone a right and publicity the opinion of everyone. However, I suddenly remembered how Severus betrayed me. He hurt me even though I did everything to prove to him that I'm worthy to become a Luna. I study a lot and trained very hard. But I didn't realize how he did that shit to me. Harsha. You are right. And I made up my mind. I will go to the campaign, but it doesn't mean that I will speak as his Luna. I bravely said, and I felt there was little confusion that Harsha felt toward my words. So? What will you do there? Harsha asked me, wondering. I will go there for my own will, but not to forgive him, I replied, and I swept the tears away from my cheeks. I felt I gained a new hope again when I made up this plan. If Severus could use me for his campaign, so I would also use him for everyone's sake. After I planned, I immediately prepared myself. I needed to fix everything before I faced the people around me. I turned on my phone again and dialed the number of Beta Leo. Where is the venue of the campaign? I asked him, and I was glad because he replied faster than I thought. I smiled as I read his message. I knew he didn't have any idea why I asking him that things. Because between Gamma Elias and him, Severus only say his secret to his trusted Gamma. And for sure, Leo did not know about our quarrel with Severus. Here's POV. I woke up early in the morning. The semi-transparent nighties I wore exposed my body. I took my phone and I still received some notifications that bothered me. The haters were still chattering about my identity. Aren't they tired of talking about me? I took a deep breath and inhaled the positive thought that become my relief every time I read lots of people commenting. However, I needed to get out of this. I jumped on my bed and went to the bathroom. I fixed myself very well. Wearing casual attire, an off-white long sleeves and a pair of black jeans. I put on light makeup and tied my long hair tightly. I looked in the mirror and found myself beautiful again after the problematic days. Another deep breath escaped from my mouth. I felt that it was my first time seeing people because of this uneasy feeling. You can do it here. You are a Vermonter. You are special. I muttered as I kept on looking at my reflection. When I felt better, I took my black sling bag and walked away from my dressing room. When I went downstairs, I saw my grandpa waiting for me. He was sitting on the couch taking his tea. I walked toward him and greeted him with respect. "Honey, where are you going?" he suddenly asked me when I departed on his body. I looked at him and I realized that I did not tell him my plan already. "I will face the problem, Grandpa," I replied, and I saw from his eyes the mixed emotions that I could not identify if he was proud or worried. Take a sit for a while here." He invited me and I didn't refuse that. Because I thought that it was too early to go to the campaign. I smiled and took a seat at his front. Shion came and he poured a cup of tea and he gave it to me. "Grandpa, can you tell me the whole story?" I asked him, and he was a little surprised as he heard me asking for that. He put the tea down and signaled his personal assistant to go out for a while. And Shion walked away and he gave us a time to talk about. Grandpa looked at me seriously. I heard his low deep breath as he tried to recall the past. "Here, I don't know if you can handle this, but the media is right. You are the next heir of the Grand Chief of Witches. Aside from being my heir, your destiny is also to become this." Grandpa said, and I was not surprised because I expected this from him. I would accept my destination no matter what I am. No matter if I was a pure werewolf or a witch. The only thing I want to know was the story behind my identity. I know it, Grandpa. And I accepted that. But can you please tell me why many of the witches are gone? I asked him because when knew that Claire was a witch, I searched for someone that belonged to her bloodline. But no one appeared after Claire was sentenced to incarceration. Some of them are in the Black Jail. And many of them are sentenced to eternal sleep. Grandpa replied, and I found myself widening my eyes because of being surprised. I never thought that the witches have a low place in this world. Why my grandmother did not help them? I felt there was something inside me that continuously hammering my heart when I asked Grandpa again. Because of the second largest pack. They ruled over the weak packs and they created a nightmare. They spread chaos and they accused the witches of this. Grandpa replied, and I saw from his eyes the sadness that I never saw before. Who are they? I was puzzled as I heard the second largest pack. The Desdemonian pack. They captured many old witches to become their alliance. Unfortunately, instead of a good outcome, old witches are abused and threatened like an animal. And it was the reason why they refused the offer of the pack. And because of shame, they gathered their forces to spread the humor about the witches. They created a way that oppressed them and many people believed their words of a lie. I was shocked by what I heard from Grandpa. I never thought that aside from rouges and hooligans, there was a pack that hates peace. And they were only using others to gain the world that they wished for their own sake. I hate the packs that use the weakness of others to gain strength and wealth. And every time I thought about this, the deeds of Severus were the only picture that come out in my mind. But when I thought about that, I realized that there was no Desdemonian pack was exist. And it puzzled me the most. Wait. You say that the Desdemonian pack plans all this. But why their packs don't exist? I asked because aside from the laws, I also studied the packs that exist in the werewolf's world. Yes, you are right. They do not exist in our minds but they are real. That's why no one believes in your grandmother. And they called her an insane witch. But I do believe in your grandmother. I know she is telling the truth. But because many people are blinded by the humor that witches don't have space in our world, many werewolves put witches in the lower to the lowest clans. And after all, Desdemonian pack is suddenly gone. No one can tell where they are. Maybe they are preparing for the second wave of their shitty deeds. I really don't know if I would believe the hearsay. But every time my grandfather told me the old story, I saw in his eyes the emotion that I did not want to see in him. I felt he was telling the truth. But before I could say my points, I would investigate it. Grandpa, can I ask something? And once again, I asked him because there was something in my mind that suddenly appeared. I felt that it have a great part in my investigation. Grandpa nodded his head in agreement and looked at me. Aside from me, you are the one that know my real identity before it spread out to the media. Grandpa knitted his eyebrows. I felt that he was also surprised as I asked him this thing. He shook his head as he said, and no one. Actually, that is the question I also want to ask you because I always hide it from everyone and I was shocked when I heard it in the news. After hearing it from my grandfather, I thought that there was someone behind it. I stood and took my things. Grandpa, thank you for the story. I think I was late. See you later. I said before I leave him to the living room. My heart beat so fast as I went to the door. "Wait here. Do you want security guards?" she shouted from afar, but I refused. "Thanks, Grandpa. But I'm okay. Bye," I replied, and I took my car and went in the direction where the campaign was being held, third-person POV. After hearing the story from Mr. Vermont, Hirre suddenly thought about. "I will find who you are," Hirre muttered as she took the common direction toward the location that Beta Leo texted her. She kept on driving as she reached the places. She parked her car and she scanned around. Many people gathered and there was no space for someone who come late. She wore her hoodie, army green jacket and a white cap. She decided to hide from the people that chattering around. Everyone was busy, some were sitting and many of them were listening to the man on the stage. And he was not other than Severus, with his Gamma Elias and Beta Leo. Hirre walked unsuspicious toward the group of people standing in front of the stage. She walked through them and no one else knew her identity because she was all covered. Hirre stood in front of the people and waited for the start of the campaign. She saw Gregor standing on the other side of the stage. He was the opponent of Severus for this campaign. And after the pleasantries that the two opposite sides give to their supporters, they started to give their propaganda and pledge their life to the position of the future king. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Severus Abram. And I will commit myself as your future king if you give me a chance. I will provide the things that you wish to have in this world. There will be no unfair feelings and from my hand, the chaos will be ended." Severus spoke bravely. He was emphasizing the fair threat to anyone. He also wanted to provide economic status to gain much power and wealth for everyone. Clap. 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 Everyone gives their hands to Severus' propaganda. He was good at catching the attention of everyone, not because he was the son of the recent king but because of his eagerness to make the change. The round of applause echoed and it made the opponent stand his propaganda. Alpha Gregor stood and he went to the microphone to speak out his own. Everyone was attentive when Gregor spoke out. And all of that was seen by Hirre. She kept on observing the people around her. But she could not see any suspicious person that surrounded her. "I need to wait for more," Hirre thought as she kept on standing. And she was thankful because her grandfather did not send a security guard for her. Here's POV. The crowd made noises as they chattered about the advantages of Severus and Gregor. And when I stayed to listen to their propaganda, I never heard from Severus his willingness to help me with the problem I faced right now. He just proposed his propaganda and then nothing more. I felt bad every time I waited for him to say something about having a fair threat to the mixed blood like me. Why he can't say that to these people? Is he afraid to lose because of this issue? And might he have a purpose why he doing this? He just wanted to give me some time to prove to every people here my perspective. I tilted my head down and walked away from the crowd. I took the way toward the stage. I need to shout my own will. And because my identity was unmasked, I could walk freely and waited for Gregor to stop talking. After a while, I walked toward the stage. Everyone was shocked and their eyes were caught when I stopped in the middle of the stage. Severus and Gregor knitted their eyebrows and I felt they were both surprised at my sudden appearance. I saw from my peripheral vision the guards of the prince who wanted to stop me from having a show. But before they went closer, I removed the things that covered my identity. They stopped walking and they looked at Severus, waiting for him to order them again. Severus raised his hands and the guards went back to their position. And when I felt they were giving me time to speak, I found myself taking a deep breath. Everyone in the front of the stage looked at me. They were giving me their deadly stare and I was a little nervous. Inhaled. Exhaled. I need to do this. I need to prove that I could make a better life for everyone, in terms of justice and fairness. I held the microphone. But before I spoke, I felt someone touching my shoulder. And when I looked back, I saw Severus smiling at me. I did not know if he was happy to see me or if he was trying to annoy me. I did not respond to his F to the power of seeking smile. Because I came here to say my perspective, not to have a flirty action with him. Here, thank you because you came. I never thought that you will surprise me, he muttered as he tried to pull me out to the microphone. For your information, I am not here to speak as your Luna. I am here to prove to the people around us that even a low clan's blood can have a right, I said and rolled my eyes at him. He just bit his lip and nodded at me. If it is your wish, you may do whatever you want, he replied, but before he leaves, he winked his right eye and it really made my wolf to feel in love again. Harsha felt she was falling into the depth of roses as she smelled the scent of her mate. Oh. He is so cool. I want him again, please. Here, I want to meet his wolf again. I want him to be with me in bed. Harsha spoke within me. I knitted my eyebrows before I locked her up. Sorry, Harsha. But this is not the right time to flirt. Bye for a while, I said after locking my wolf. I shook my head and Severus went back to his chair, cheering me secretly, but I did not care. I thought that he was just acting like supporting me even though he was not. And who would be a stupid one who trusted again a person who used you at once? I gripped the microphone tightly and I heard the crowd throwing ill words toward me. I suddenly felt the same thing I encountered before. I saw the same event where the people in the succession ceremony told me how useless I am. I saw their eyes mocking me. Some were giving me a terrifying aura. Some were chattering and cursing my identity. Most of them decided what party would they support. I knew they were thinking that I'm here to become Severus Luna. And I needed to put their erroneous mind into right. My heart beats fast. I clenched my hands into fists and started to speak out. Here's POV. Hirre Monreal, right? Is she showing her support for Severus? What the hell she's doing here? Oh, the son of bitch is here. Why is she making a fuss here? Is she out of her mind? Poor prince, I think he will be lost this campaign. I heard from the crowd around me their voices at cursing me. All of them were thinking that I am not worthy to be here in their front. I felt the same ambience where I found myself in the judgmental eyes of the people around me last year. I felt that I'm in the middle of eagerness and fear to face them. I clenched the microphone tightly and took a deep breath, giving myself a clear mind to speak. I knew in myself how to handle this. Because I really expected this even before. Here, calm yourself. We doing this not for ourselves but for anyone. Harsha spoke within me. I nodded my head and recalled every thought that I made up in my mind recently. I know that each of you is asking why I'm here, I said as I scanned the area. There were few people who did not mind me, but several people were stayed and listened. I felt the same nervous I felt recently even though I spoke a few words. I felt the tightness of my breath as I added, even if you did not tell me, I felt it. I saw from your eyes the unwillingness to listen to me. And I can't blame you for that. But for this time, I wanted to spare even a piece of time to lean your ears to me. I shouted and everyone looked at me. And even I felt uneasy because, from their eyes, I saw how they considered me a low-class woman. A brat and cancer in society. They looked at me like I am disgusting trash in the bin. I clenched the microphone tightly. Seemed like it would never escape from me again because, at this time, I would never let go of the opportunity that I have. Maybe you are shocked why I'm here. And I know that you are thinking that I am here because of Severus's campaign. But I'm not. The area was filled with different voices as I spoke. All of them were puzzled about my real intention and why I disguised myself to come over here. And from the right side of the stage, I saw Severus knitted his eyebrows. He looked at me and I knew he was wondering. I am here because I want to express my thought about this world. I don't care if I can't be a King's Luna in the future. It's not a matter to me. All I wanted is to tell you that we are living in a twisted world with twisted ideology. I continued speaking, but many of the people around me didn't believe what I said. How could you say that? You are just a mere low class. An old lady shouted from the crowd. But it doesn't affect my willingness to speak. She's right. You are disrespecting the world we have. You are the one who needs to get away from here. You son of bitch. Don't believe here. The crowds have begun to make a fuss. And it slowly weakened me. Arg. I want to kill those ugly people. Harsha angrily growled in my mind, but I controlled her anger. Since I wanted to push myself to show up the good example within me. Tap. Tap. Suddenly, I felt someone holding my shoulder. And I was shocked when I saw Severus behind me. What are you doing here? I coldly asked him, giving him my deadly stare. I did not want to ruin by his tantalizing eyes. You can do it, he muttered as he winked his right. I felt the redness of my cheeks, but I didn't show it from him. I immediately turned around without thanking his support. I would prove to him that I could do it. After a while, I heard Severus walking away. I felt relief because he was gone. I faced again the crowd and continued my speech. We are werewolves, we have power and strength. We are stronger than them in many terms. But sad to say, we are living in a twisted ideology. We put ourselves at the top, but the fact is, we are lower than humans in thinking, I said, and everyone looked at each other. Even Severus was surprised when I revealed how twisted our world was. Wake up, werewolves. Wake up. We are living in a system that is so backward. We don't have any idea about the word's difference. We are acting like we are all superior and there are much lower than us. We discriminate and hate the blood that does not belong to us. Do you want to feel the same way? The way that people around you consider you as a low-key? Disregarding the blood and clans that you belong to? How do you feel about that? Huh? I spoke indignantly, emphasizing how idiot the people that threaten others are unfair. And every time I pronounced these words, there was one thing that I suddenly realized, the feeling of being a loner between werewolves and witches. I did realize how the ideology of both sides affects the relationship of the two different blood. The misunderstanding causes chaos and discrimination. The crowd filled with chattering and their voices appeared like a buzzing of bees looking for a good path to follow. I scanned the area again, hoping that there was someone who gonna change their mind about the changes that I wanted. I waited for a moment. Here we did it, Harsha said, and I was little felt better as I heard her, even though there was no sign of having a piece of good news. And if we listen to you, what will we gain? A man in his late 40s suddenly shouted from the crowd, and all the people around him stopped talking. I found myself smiling briefly as I replied to him. No other than peace and fair threat to anyone. And if it happened, the world we have will be progressive. Because we can change the world we have. We can treat others how we want respect. And when I finished my sentences, the good ambience faced me when I saw a few people nod their heads. I felt it was my first step in making a change. I looked at Severus, who clapped his hands for me. My heart beats fast as I saw how he supported me behind. I averted again my gaze away from him and continued my speech. I'm no longer to be here. But I hope that my words will mark your mind. And if not, we cannot help our world to be better. I added it before I leave the stages. I immediately ran and took the backstages. I was panting for breath as I sat on the bench. I felt that my heart was racing. It pumping that made me breathe heavily. My knees were shaking, even my hands were sweaty. But the happiness inside my heart made me feel better. Severus's POV. From the beginning of the campaign, I felt emptiness. Because my opponent Gregor has his own Luna who supported his everyday campaign. While I'm here, sitting with my Gamma, wishing that like him, I could have my Luna beside me. And I was hoping that a while later, here would come and support me. And a while later, I stood and say my propaganda. I didn't open up the issue about here because I wanted her to speak it up. I just focused on my mission, and the crowd gives me a round applause. And when Gregor started to speak out his propaganda, I suddenly smell the intoxicating smell that become closer and closer. I looked around, looking for someone who have that similar fragrance smell. Here? Are you here? I contacted Hirre, but she didn't answer me. I felt that my sense would never betray me. I knew the scent of my Luna. But I couldn't trace her location since there were too many people around. I knitted my eyebrows as my nose smelled the scent in the crowd. I was puzzled because the group of people here was just presenting the campaign that was held in the arena. On the other side of the stage, my opponent Gregor smirked at me. I didn't know what he meant, but I thought it because I didn't have my Luna for this whole campaign. But it's not a big deal to me. Although, it was really took an advance for the runner of King's position. But for me, I knew Hirre's situation and I could not blame her if she didn't want to show up. But suddenly, a woman appeared and she was covering her entire face. And even she wearing thick clothes, her smell was still in me. She stood in the middle of the stage where the microphone was located. I saw from the expression of the crowd the states of being surprised by the sudden appearance of that woman. And when she removed her hood and her sunglass, Hirre's face was revealed and it caught the attention of the haters. All of them bashed my beloved woman. I wanted to protect her, but I felt that Hirre wanted to stand alone. But I could not bear the pain every time I heard how the crowd told her that she was a pest and disgusting. I clenched my hands into a fist and I felt the warm palm of Elias tapping my shoulder. "Calm down, Prince, she can handle it," Elias spoke, and I nodded my head. Yes, I knew Hirre was able to face those people because she have a goal. But when I saw her trembling in her position, I was scared that she would run away and let the people mock her weakness. I didn't hesitate to approach her and cheered. "Hirre, you can do it," I muttered behind her, giving her my sweet smile. But instead of a good face, Hirre gave me her deadly stare and ordered me to step away from her. I saw her coldness toward me. I knew she was still mad at me, but it doesn't matter for now. All I wanted was to support him. Even though she said not to come any closer to her anymore. I felt concern instead of anger and hatred, because long as I remembered in our conversation, she said that she wanted me to win. And the only way to gain the majority vote is to stay away from her. Position or my Luna? I felt how hard it was to decide, because both of them were not easy to lost. I sat on the chair and I felt how she was eager to shout her thoughts. And I was very happy seeing Luna doing her best with the use of my campaign. And when she has begun to talk despite the judgmental people, my heart beats fast. I was floating on cloud 9 when I heard her, showing the essence of being my Luna. I really wanted to shout to the world that the woman who was talking was my woman. But I needed to stay calm and let the time pass. But suddenly, my happiness turned into puzzlement when I heard her real intention. She told the crowd that she was here not because of me. I turned silent and endured the pain that suddenly cut the happiness I have. What the hell she's doing? I thought, and it really made my head ache. I closed my eyes for a second and took a deep breath. I didn't want to see the mocking smiles of my opponent. And I never thought that for almost 10 candidates that listed to be my opponent, only this jerk was left, and now making my blood boil. I really don't know why I felt something bad about this man. Might be because he was my opponent, or if there was something behind that, I didn't know. I ignored the disgusting of Gregor and focused on the words of Hirre. And I was put in shock at the moment that I heard the next words of Hirre. I didn't know if I would be proud of her, as she said she wanted a fair threat to anyone. I knitted my eyebrows when I realized that she wanted to adopt the habits of a mere human to a werewolf like us. But I could not blame her, because she was a mixed blood who wanted peace between witches and werewolves that were opposite to the will of the majority. After a couple of minutes, she said goodbye and ran away backstage. I wanted to follow her, but I have my last speech. I stood and went to the stages again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Severus Sabrim, running for being a future king. Hoping that your side will be mine. I shouted as I caught the attention of everyone. Prince Severus, do you believe what Ms. Monreal said before? A young man in his late 20s shouted. I clasped my hands and smiled before I spoke. Yeah. And there's no wrong with the ideology of Ms. Hirre if it is right for her. And I'm so proud that she can say that. Even we all know that she is a mixed blood. I said with my manly voice. The chattering of the people around was echoed again, and they were weighing the opinion of Hirre. And while the crowd was busy talking to each other, I was looking for the scent of Hirre. And goodness, because she was still closer to the area. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to say that Hirre is not King's Luna. She's mine. I added before I left the stage quietly, not knowing that after a few steps away from the microphone, the crowd felt romantic feelings toward my words. I felt that some of them were still supporting the love that I have to Hirre as my Luna. I smiled briefly and I saw Gregor glaring at me. I did not mind him and continued walking away from him. Because I'm looking for the most important person to me, my Luna. Here's POV. Here's POV. I decided to go home after I took a short rest. But when I started to make a few steps, I suddenly heard Severus giving his last words to the crowd. I went closer to the stages and listened to the speech. and I felt my heart beat fast again as I heard Severus saying that I'm his Luna to the crowd. I really don't know why he was acting like this. I didn't know if he was an idiot and he tried to ruin his career because of me. Because if people knew that I'm his Luna, the majority would never trust his words again. And why he looked like doesn't care about that. Is he an idiot? I found myself slapping my own forehead. I could stand this anymore. I needed to go away before the campaign ended. I walked fast as I could and I reached the hallway. I felt something in my belly and I decided to find a restroom to pee. I immediately went to the certain door of a restroom. I quickly took off all the pee inside my bladder. I slightly moaned as I finished taking a pee. I grabbed my pants up and flushed the toilet. But when I stood, I was really put in shock as I saw a man standing outside the door. Actually, he was not just a man, he was Severus. Are you following me? And even in this hell, you are here? I widened my eyes as I saw him. He was also shocked as he looked at me. Why are you here? Are you out of your mind? He replied and it made my blood boil. How could he say that ill words to me? I put both of my arms on my waist as I glared at him. He shook his head and gave me his annoying smile that increased my anger. He stretched his right arm and pointed to the right corner of the wall. I felt nervous and wished that I'm wrong in guessing what he mean. But I thought my fate today was to put in shame when I saw what he wanted to say. Men's room tilde. What the hell? I am in the men's restroom. I thought surprisingly, clenching my hands into fists. I wished that earth might swallow me entirely because of the shame I felt right now. My eyes refused to look at Severus and I decided to look down and then saw his mocking smile at me. What if the man was not Severus? What if someone saw me instead of him? What if? Arg. 3 questions mark appeared in my mind, asking myself. And I felt the redness of my cheeks scattered around my body. I could not bear the shame I felt and I decided to run away. But before I passed by him, I suddenly felt his soft hand touching mine. Wait here, he whispered, but I struggled. I didn't want to talk to him right now because might there was someone entered and see us there. I didn't want to become a desperate woman in their eyes because of this mistaken room. I continued walking through the door to exit. But seemed like Severus knew every movement I did because he quickly went in my front and blocked the way. Don't go, he added, and he grabbed my arm. I halted my steps and glared at him, hiding the shame I felt. But Severus was still holding me. Let me go, I said coldly while averting my gaze away from him. Here. Can we talk? He asked me and I rolled my eyes. I am not the kind of woman who lets men talk to me in this shitty place. Let me go, I replied to him and I grabbed his hand to remove it from me. But he seemed deaf because he was still holding me and I felt that there were no signs that he would let me go. I wanted to spare your time here, even just now. He begged me, but I don't care if we stayed here forever. All I wanted was to stop him from talking to me. I raised my head and I saw his perfect face that looked like God graven it. He was a part of the heaven. I was hypnotized by his looks. But I don't care. I needed to get out of his sight. We don't have anything to talk about. Are you deaf? I told you to ignore me. I told you not to link your name to me again. Why are you not listening? I shouted indignantly. I don't care if there were someone who heard us fighting. because the important for me right now was to tell him what I felt. But instead of letting me go, he walked closer and our eyes met. His annoying smile turned into a seducing aura that really made me think not to waste this moment. Here. I really miss you. I want you no matter what happens. You are my Luna and you are always mine. He whispered and it made me feel goosebumps. I felt that there were thousands of volts running faster into my veins and it flowed instantly in my heart that made it beat fast. What is this feeling? Why I can't move? I asked myself as I saw Severus's face was much closer to me. His eyes, his nose, his lips, they were damn seducing. And I really don't know why even my tongue could speak out. Even my mind wanted to curse him. Suddenly, I felt his long fingers running to my waist while the other one held my hand tightly. His face slowly devoured mine when our lips touched each other. Our lips met and I could not resist this moment. There was something about me that stopped me from making a struggle. I wanted to push him away but my body couldn't. And even I did not want to have this moment, my body betrayed itself. Why I could not push him away? Why do I still want his lips and smell? Arg! I did not want this. I asked myself wondering while I taste the strange feeling from Severus. And how funny because I found myself touching his nape. A touch that could increase his romantic action. We kissed and I felt his tongue sipping mine, And even though I didn't want, I moaned slowly. I miss you here, that's why I'm showing it. He whispered in my earlobe. But I did not answer him because I wanted to feel every stroke of his fingers across my body. Third-person POV. Severus and Hirre shared their moment inside but they were suddenly interrupted by the sudden knock on the door. Hirre halted kissing Severus. Her eyes were got widened and swallowed her saliva. She didn't want someone to see them half-naked in the men's restroom. However, Severus stayed calm and he sensed the people that might come. I told you. Hirre whispered indignantly as she glared at Severus. Shy. Severus replied as he used his index finger to shut Hirre's mouth. Don't worry, I got you, Severus added and he gave Hirre a sweet smile. Hirre shook her head and departed on Severus's body. Severus gripped her arm but she refused. Where are you going? Severus asked. Wondering but Hirre did not look back at her. She reluctantly walked toward the cubicle to fix herself. Knock. 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 Another knock from the door was heard and it made Hirre immediately wear her shirt. She felt uneasy and she locked the cubicle. Severus shook his head as he saw Hirre hiding. He fixed himself before going to the door to open it. He saw a young man appear and he was one of Severus's guards. He looked at him seriously and the man bowed his head before he spoke. Pardon, Mr. Abram but Mr. Elias looking for you. A young man in his black suit came and he was ordered by Gamma Elias. Okay. Tell him that I will be there after a few minutes. Severus replied seriously, seemed like he didn't do anything inside the restroom. The young man nodded his head before he walked out of Severus's sight. Severus followed the man with his sight and when he noticed that he was totally gone, he locked the door and looked for Hirre. I need to go home. Hirre suddenly appeared and it made Severus to feel shocked. Hirre looked at Severus with her deadly stare. She wears again her hoodie jacket and she is already prepared to go home. Hirre, I'm happy to meet you again. And, I'm so proud of you. Severus said and he stretched his arms to embrace Hirre. Hirre felt the warmth of Severus's body. Her beast mode suddenly turned into a tamed sheep when Prince Severus hugged her tightly. And before Severus departed from her body, Hirre received a sweet kiss from him. "Can I be with you on your way home?" Severus asked. Hirre knitted her eyebrows. She ignored Severus and she took a step away from Severus. But Severus was hard-headed and he blocked Hirre's way out. He stretched his arms wide and Hirre halted her steps. She glared at Severus and rolled her eyes. She crossed her arms on her chest and spoke. "Severus, aren't you listening to me? You need to ignore me in the sight of those people if you want to win." Hirre replied, which made Severus take a deep breath. "Hirre, do you hear what you say? The position is not a matter if you are nothing." Severus felt sadness as he replied. He wanted to turn the belief that Hirre holding to. He knew that Hirre cared about his position but he wanted to face it with his Luna. "Severus, please. Listen to me, okay?" Hirre was almost in tears as she replied. She looked at Severus, wanting time to make Severus believe in her. "They are all right, I'm not worthy to be called as yours. I am just a low-class's mixed blood," she added as she let her tears to flow down. She felt pain every time she pronounced those words. However, Severus shook his head and he slowly touched Hirre's face with passion. He pinched it and spoke sweetly, "You don't have to worry about me here. You are worthy, okay? I know you want changes. I know what is in your heart. I'm still here no matter who you are. I believe in you here, so please believe me too." Severus replied, giving his Luna the strength to face everything. But I felt that I will fail. I don't want to be your Luna for your campaign." Hirre suddenly spoke negativity and it made Severus get mad. "Hirre, do you know how much I cared for you? I do, always looking for the opportunity to get the thought of those people to save your dignity. I tried to force you to speak out, and I'm thankful because you listened. But every time that you let me go to the campaign alone, I felt I'm not worthy as an alpha. Everyone says that I'm worthless even if I am the prince because you are not there. Gregor always mocked me behind. All I want is you here. But even how many times I ignored them, they are all right. I don't have a sense of having a Luna. Do you know why? Because you are afraid to be my Luna. You are afraid to face the reality. You are weakling, you are. Slap." But before Severus finished his sentence, a great slap quickly hit on his face. But the pain that he received from Hirre was nothing compared to the words he threw away. He was surprised by that, but he expected that from Hirre because of his words. He knew how hurt those words for Hirre, but he did not care about the feeling of his Luna. He became selfish, and he knew it. But he knew that he just wanted to clear Hirre's thought. "Don't say that, Severus. You don't know what I'm going through this time. Don't act fool. I know what I'm doing. I follow you to face those people, but I also want you to win. I choose to let you do the campaign alone because I want that those people know how independent you are. Yes, I'm your Luna. You're fucking useless Luna." Hirre shouted indignantly, and before she added, she pointed Severus' forehead and growled again, "But I want you to put in your mind that I'm just protecting your dignity. And I will be you Luna if those people change their ideology, because all you have twisted mind." Severus could not believe on what he heard. He felt that every words that Hirre left to him were started to hammer his heart into pieces. He felt the truth behind those words that literally piercing deep inside his heart. He felt pain, but he could not talk back to recant the words that he said to his Luna. Thud. Hirre walked out quickly after throwing her words. Severus looked back but Hirre was gone. He wanted to follow her outside but he felt the weakness of his body. He didn't have right to regain the words he said. And when Hirre was gone, Severus could not stop himself not to blame himself. He clenched his hands into fist and grits his teeth in anger to himself. Arg! Severus growled and he punched the mirror that made a huge damage on its surface. Because he realized that he was too selfish. He felt that he just thinking about himself and Hirre was right. There were some blood that dripped from the mirror through the sink. But the bruises he made was nothing compared to what Hirre felt right now. He thought that he was the most cruel alpha. Arg! He shouted again angrily. He slapped his face again and clenched tightly his hair. He wanted to follow Hirre but his ego did not want. At that moment, Hirre immediately covered her face with her hood. She ran fast as she could and the janitor saw her coming out the men's restroom. Fortunately, the old lady did not mind Hirre and she just continued her work. Hirre quickly went to her car and drove it toward her home. She reached the wide road and she started to cry. Sniff. Hirre parked her car first to the sideway. She cried inside and thought every words that they threw in each other. She couldn't handle the pain because even Harsha did not want to speak with her. She felt alone and the only thing that she could lean on was her tears. Hirre buried her face with her palm as she remembered about Severus. Now she felt the feeling of being alone. She realized how hard the moment that you need someone but the only person you wish to be there was nothing. She knew that like her, Severus felt the same way as her. Both of them were in the both end of their own feelings. The end that they could reach without pain to feel. Yes, it's hard for a king's alpha prince to speak without his Luna but all she wanted was to make Severus win against Gregor. She sobbed and the tears went down from her eyes. Cring. Suddenly, her busy sad moment interrupted by the phone's ringtone. She immediately swept her tears and took the phone on her jacket. "Hello?" she asked as she answered the call. "Here, did you see the news update?" Ken's called her and she knitted her eyebrows as she heard her cousin. She couldn't distinguish if Ken was happy or not because of his unpredictable tone of voice. "And no I didn't," Hirre replied seriously. She didn't want to let other know that she was crying. "Take a look for it, Hirre. Anyway, I have something to do, bye," Ken added before he cut the line. Hirre opened her social media account. And even she was reluctant to open it. She bravely did it. Hirre widened her eyes as she saw the news from the social media. She didn't expected this as well. "What the? Is it true?"